It was never enough for you, was it? No effort that I put in, no amount of things that I tried to do right, no amount of times that I tried to learn the better way of doing things. It just wasn't enough, right? Regardless of the times that I made sure, or at least tried to make sure, that I was working on something so that maybe, just maybe, one of these days when I showed you what I was working on, or when I talked about it or planned to talk about it, you would actually be impressed. You would actually be happy. You would tell me how great of a job I'm doing, not because you pity me, but because you are happy that I'm making progress. But none of that seems to ever matter. You never saw the progress that I made. You never saw the energy that I put in. You never saw the efforts that I went through or the things that I tried to do to improve. It was just always, you're not doing enough. Regardless of how close I got to an A in school, if it wasn't an A, there was always room for improvement. It was like the ceiling was so high that unless I got to the ceiling, unless I was right at the ceiling, if there was even an inch between me and the ceiling, there was always room for improvement. It was like if it wasn't perfect, it wasn't good enough. And I've lived with that for years. 2 decades and some years of just constantly never being good enough. Of being compared to others without blatantly saying that I'm being compared to others. As if I can't read the lines beneath your words, as if I can't see the meanings beneath your tone. It just was never enough. No matter how hard I worked, no matter how hard I tried, no matter what I did or didn't do, no matter what I gave up quietly or didn't, it just never impressed you. So much to the point that I even do it to myself unconsciously. I don't think it's good enough. It needs to be better. It's not perfect, so yes, it's not yet there. And I get angry at myself over the simplest of things simply because it's not good enough. It's interesting because the funny thing is, me and anger, we don't always talk, but sometimes when we do, the few times that we do, it's usually not a pleasant conversation. So he prefers to stay in his room, and I lock the door, so he doesn't mistakenly slip out, and my day is ruined. But no, I think he slipped out again today. Quietly. I'm beyond the point of being frustrated. Because it won't even make any sense. Even if I get frustrated, that doesn't add anything. Nor does it take anything away. It's just never enough for you, is it? unless I've reached this imaginary threshold, this imaginary standard that is so high I can't even see it from where I'm standing. Unless I'm there and above it, it's just not enough. And so I'll continue to think that something is wrong with me, something is broken, something is unnecessary and present in my life. You know what it feels like to feel like every single time that you do something, you've made a mistake. Like instinctively, you just know that this isn't the most perfect version that this could be, so therefore it must be a mistake somehow, because I know the moment that you see it, you won't even acknowledge the work being done. Heck, you would just get into fixing it yourself. You would try to do it again yourself, because obviously it's the only time that it's okay, the only time that something isn't wrong or broken is when you do it. But when I do it, when I try to work on it, when I try to do it myself, it's just never enough. It's just never enough. So I try. At times, I try to change things. I try to look better. I try to act better. I try to make sure that I make less mistakes, because if I make less mistakes, then I'll be criticized a lot less. But it seems like the less or the more I try to make less mistakes, the more mistakes I end up making, and the more the criticisms come. The same conversation over and over of you not seeing the effort that I'm putting in. And yet we wonder why we don't talk as much. You wonder why we don't have time to just go out on a stroll and just talk. Well, I guess maybe one of the reasons for that is that even then during the talk, it's probably going to sound more like a disappointed conversation about my life than anything else. So I'd much rather just keep a safe distance, pretend that everything is fine, look at the mirror and tell myself that I'm not a mistake or some kind of broken record that can't be fixed. I've gotten used, very used, to the conversations to the point that I don't even argue anymore. I stopped arguing years and years ago, because I realized that I wouldn't win in any situation. No matter what I said, no matter what angle I took it, it still won't be enough. It will still feel like an excuse to you. It will feel like a half explanation, because even my explanation isn't perfect either. So I just sit there, shut up, and let you talk. Nod my head in perfect practice, the one thing that I can get right, and continue on. And when the conversation is over and you leave, it feels more like I've been thrown into the shredder, dragged out in pieces. I have to get that same familiar old thread that same familiar old thread. Put it through a broken needle and start stitching myself up slowly, painfully. Trying hard and harder to tell myself that I'm not a problem or a mistake. That what I've done might not be ever good enough for you. But that's not my burden to bear. But the thing about a broken needle and a familiar old thread is that after you've been stitching yourself up for years and years and years and years, after you stitch the cloth that is yourself up years and years, eventually you have too many holes in the cloth from constantly stitching. And eventually the thread becomes loose at the seams, even though you stitched as hard as you could. It's easy to forget that the fabric, the cloth, is thread too.